Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. She had been deemed unworthy. At her mother-in-law's birthday party, in a historic mansion on Beacon Hill, she was ignored, scorned, as if her mere presence offended this elite Boston banking family. All because of her unassuming appearance. To them, she didn't deserve their son. Not their heir. Not James Harrison. But no one predicted what would follow. When her billionaire husband stood up, what he revealed was like a bombshell. And every haughty look, every mocking whisper, suddenly froze. Silence. Total. The Harrison estate, 5 generations of power, influence, secrets. They had survived the Great Depression, by foreclosing on their neighbors' homes. And they had emerged richer, more powerful. That night, Sarah Harrison's 70th birthday was no ordinary party. It was a rite. A ceremony where their superiority was reaffirmed. A dynasty built on arranged marriages, calculated alliances, bloodlines watched over like investment portfolios. Their plan for James? Mary Caroline Westfield, noble blood, ancient fortune, heiress to a name more precious than a bar of gold. But James had chosen the unexpected. Broken heart, a car breakdown. An unexpected detour. In a country cafe in Greenwood, he had met Olivia. No family network. No prestigious origins. Just a brilliant, authentic woman, owner of a small cafe, with a degree in economics. And there, James Harrison saw what his family had never known: truth. Authenticity. Genuine love. Now, 3 years later, Olivia stood tall, dignified, wearing a simple beige dress. Not for lack of means. By choice. Her silver bracelet, a simple piece of jewelry adorned with a blue stone, told the story of their first anniversary. Before the billions. Before the Forbes charts. But around her, the smiles were false. The looks sharp. "That's James's wife," whispered Elizabeth, Sarah's bridge partner of 30 years. 3 years later, and she still hasn't adjusted. Claire, the former organizer of family social events, approached. Her smile was tight and her voice was honeyed. "Olivia, did you come here again in an everyday outfit?" Mom had specified evening wear. But it wasn't just about clothes. It was a war of values. And Olivia, without knowing it, had just declared the revolution. Every step she took across the living room was followed by heavy stares. The room, tastefully decorated, exuded old-world richness, but for Olivia, the air was heavy as a silent courtroom. A waiter approached. "Would you like an appetizer?" But Claire cut in. "Oh, I'm sure Olivia will want to try it. She always likes to take what doesn't belong to her." Muffled laughter erupted. Complicit smiles. Judgments as sharp as blades. 3 years of marriage, and every barb still seemed carefully prepared. But what they all didn't know was that the truth James was about to reveal would change everything. Traditions, passed down from generation to generation, carefully woven through arranged marriages and well-calculated social alliances. Olivia reached for a stuffed mushroom, her hand surprisingly steady despite the palpable tension around her. "They look delicious," she said with a polite smile. "Sarah always chooses the best caterers." "That's what you call having standards, my dear," Claire replied, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Maybe that would be a good lesson for you." "Well, difficult, I imagine, when you come from, what's the name of that little town near Pittsburgh again?" "Greenwood," Olivia replied calmly, refusing to respond to the provocation. "It's a lovely place. It's actually where James's car broke down that weekend." "How convenient," Claire sneered, her eyes narrowed in carefully controlled contempt. "A broken-down car, and suddenly our James marries a local waitress." An awkward silence fell until Uncle Richard arrived, a martini in hand and a softer look than most of the others. "Ladies, perhaps we could save this debate for another time," he said with a small smile towards Olivia. "After all, we're here to celebrate Sarah's birthday. By the way, speaking of James," he continued, trying to change the subject, "when is it coming?" "He had an unscheduled meeting, but he shouldn't be long," Olivia replied, relieved by this brief respite. But she knew that this calm would not last. Another meeting, Sarah Harrison repeated as she approached. Her designer gown glided smoothly across the carpet, but her gaze was anything but gentle. We should at least be grateful that you came, even if you didn't consider the occasion worthy of anything special. His gaze slid over Olivia's simple dress, a silent, but cutting insult. I'm sorry if my outfit disappoints you, Sarah. I chose something simple because what matters to this family doesn't matter to you, Claire cut in, approaching like a predator smelling fear. Our mother's birthday, a historic date, and you don't even make an effort? A circle had formed around them. Aunts, cousins, their gazes eager for the spectacle. Olivia felt the air grow heavier, thicker, as if a social noose were tightening around her neck. I didn't mean to disrespect anyone, Olivia said, her voice clear despite her racing heart. I just think that. That's your problem, Sarah interrupted, her cold voice spilling into the now silent room. You always think you know better than the traditions this family has protected for generations. Tell me, what did you really bring to this wedding, besides alienating my son from us? An icy silence fell. Some guests looked away. No one dared to intervene. Witnesses to a social lynching, but mute. I love your son, Olivia said simply. And in her vulnerability, she found new strength. And he loves me too. A mocking laugh spread among the guests. The sound echoed off the walls covered with family portraits, as if all generations of Harrisons were judging her. Richard took a step forward, clearly uncomfortable. I think we're going a bit far. It is Sarah's birthday, after all. No, Richard. It needs to be said, Claire insisted, her voice rising as she moved even closer to Olivia. What do you bring, besides spending our family's money? Olivia swallowed hard, her throat tight. Isn't it? Oh, please, Sarah cut in, her maternal tone twisted into something cruel. We all know about your charities, your foundation. Playing philanthropist with money, Harrison, doesn't make you one of us. A cousin, whom Olivia barely knew, joined the chorus of voices, encouraged by the collective cruelty. Do you remember last Christmas? She had simply suggested that we donate our gift budget to a homeless shelter. An icy silence fell over the table. The memory flashed through Olivia's mind like a flash. Her hopeful idea had been met with nothing but astonished stares, followed by mocking laughter. Yet another, and futile, attempt to bring together worlds that seemed so polar opposites. Maybe, she had whispered, her voice soft but crystal clear in the frozen room. There are more important things in life than appearances and traditions that hurt. Claire, sitting opposite, blushed instantly. The carefully applied blush was no match for the real anger rising beneath her skin. There you go! This goody-goody attitude! You never belonged in this family, Olivia. And you never will. It's time to stop pretending. That's enough, Claire, Richard said firmly. But it was too late. Silence had fallen like a lead blanket over the room. Dozens of eyes fixed on Olivia. The atmosphere was so tense it could have been cut with the silver knives gleaming on the immaculate tablecloth. Olivia took a slow breath, then said in a surprisingly steady voice, You may be right about one thing. I didn't grow up in that world. But that doesn't mean that you must be here. Sarah cut in with an icy tone, sharp as a blade. Perhaps this evening would be more enjoyable if you waited for James, somewhere else. The blow, though subtle, resonated like a slap. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Olivia stood erect, the weight of 3 years of judgments, sidelong glances, and whispered words resting on her shoulders. She had endured it all. For James. In the hope that one day, they would see beyond her humble origins. But there, in front of everyone, humiliated in broad daylight, something changed inside her. It wasn't anger. Nor resentment. It was a silent grief. For those people who were incapable of measuring the value of a person other than by their family name, or their bank account. And yet she raised her head, proud. She knew something they didn't. But what happened next, no one would have imagined. The large oak doors opened with a solemn creak. An even deeper silence enveloped the room. James Harrison had just appeared. His suit slightly creased from a long day's work, he stood there in the doorway, bathed in the golden afternoon light. "James!" Sarah exclaimed, her voice instantly changing from cold to honeyed. "We were just talking about Olivia. She seems to have misunderstood some of our family traditions." Claire, in the background, was readjusting her silk dress, ready to rekindle the debate. "Perhaps you can explain to her why your mother's birthday deserves a little more respect." Everyone was waiting. They expected James to, as always, defend Olivia with restraint. But this time, something had changed. His eyes found Olivia's across the room. It was just them in this silent exchange. Years of complicity, of shared suffering. He walked towards her. Slowly. Deliberately. And simply took her hand. This simple gesture made the room shudder. "I heard what was said," James declared in a calm, yet strangely powerful voice. The entire room held its breath. There was something new in his posture. A contained tension. A hardness in his gaze that no one here had ever seen. "Mom," he finally said after a silence that seemed to last an eternity. "Can I make an announcement? It seems relevant to me." Sarah raised a trembling hand to her pearls, sensing a strangeness in her son's voice. "Of course, my dear." James then turned to everyone gathered there. "There is something you must understand about my wife." He spoke each word with chilling precision, weighed and measured, as his gaze shifted from face to face. Silent judges lined up around the room. The controlled intensity of his eyes, fixed and implacable, made several family members squirm in their seats. "It's something I've kept to myself, at Olivia's request. But I think it's time, everyone knows." The ticking of the old grandfather clock filled the absolute silence, each beat seeming to hammer home the anticipation. Claire's champagne glass trembled slightly. She perceived now, too late, something dangerous, buried, about to explode behind her brother's unsettling calm. "What do you mean by that?" Sarah asked, concern creeping into her voice despite herself. A flash of apprehension crossed her face. What secret could possibly justify this almost predatory silence? James remained impassive, frozen like a marble statue, observing the play with the detachment of a man who, after playing a rigged game for too long, decided to turn the chessboard over. "It's about who Olivia really is," he said simply, his voice dropping to a whisper so low everyone instinctively leaned in. And then he let the mystery hang. A silence. Thick. Electric. "It changed everything for me, and I think it will change the way you see things too." All eyes turned to him as he stood beside Olivia. Tick-tack, the clock ticked like a countdown to an inevitable verdict. The air vibrated with an almost unbearable tension. They all felt that a monumental moment was approaching. "For years," James said, his tone calm but pierced by a sharp hardness, "I bit my tongue while you talked about Olivia. That she was the one who set me up. That she was lucky to get a Harrison. That she added nothing to this family's legacy." Claire blanched, her gaze lowering to James's, as precise and sharp as a scalpel. "But none of you bothered to get to know her. Your privileges blinded you, your prejudices deafened you." He grabbed his wife's hand. A gesture of unity. Of love. Of rebellion. "When my car broke down in Greenwood, I wasn't the CEO you revere today. I was riddled with debt. My company was going under, just weeks away from bankruptcy." A shudder of discomfort ran through the assembly. "That little coffee shop where you thought Olivia served lattes? She owned it. And not just one, 3 others across the state." His voice rose, calm but relentless. "This woman, whom you treated like a domestic worker, was already supporting 15 employees. And funding university scholarships. Before she even knew my name." Sarah's aristocratic mask wavered. "The Harrison fortune would be cut in half, without her," James said, his words like arrows. "That investment strategy that saved us during the crisis? That was her. The Westbrook acquisition that doubled our market share? She saw the opportunity when your friends at the golf club thought it was impossible." Even the usually cold Uncle Richard nodded slowly, forced to admit. "But she never speaks during family gatherings." Claire protested weakly. Because you silenced her! James exploded, his voice cracking with tension held in for too long. She tried. 3 times. And each time, she was interrupted, ignored, or dismissed. This family has a history of silencing those who don't fit your mold. Olivia squeezed his hand. Not to calm him down. To say, I am with you. The wing of the hospital that the Harrison Foundation is opening tomorrow. James continued, his gaze burning. The $30 million that's funding it doesn't come from the family fund. A gasp of shock rippled through the room. They come from my wife's personal account. His personal account? Sarah whispered, her voice breaking. James finished, without softening the blow. Olivia sold her business last year. For an 8-figure sum. She's been managing her own portfolio since she was 22. She's never touched a single cent of your money, Harrison. The one you're so worried about. She doesn't need your approval. And even less your pity. The silence, still hanging in the air, was broken by Aunt Patricia. Then why does she dress so simply? And for the first time, Olivia spoke. His voice was soft, but carried a natural authority that silenced the entire room. Because I learned to differentiate between price and value. She paused. My parents, a teacher and a factory worker, taught me that character isn't measured by labels or jewelry. She touched her simple dress with a calm, confident gesture. It didn't come from a department store. It was handmade by women at the shelter we helped found in Pittsburgh. A place where survivors of domestic violence learn lifelong skills and regain their independence. Sarah's hand shook as she searched for support. All her self-confidence as a former high society Dan wavered. Your designer clothes are beautiful, Olivia continued, still with that disarming sweetness. But they don't define success or integrity. They're just objects. Purchased through passed-down privileges. Claire seemed to receive an invisible blow. His perfectly controlled world was visibly cracking. I never wanted to humiliate anyone, Olivia added. I kept quiet about my past because I wanted to be accepted for who I am, not for what I have. I wanted to belong to this circle for the human connection, not for financial status. James took a step forward, his jaw clenched with suppressed emotion. The next time you judge someone by appearances or what you think they are worth, remember this moment. Remember how wrong you were. He then turned to his mother, whose legendary composure had completely disappeared. Happy birthday, Mom. Your present is in the car. That Monet you've been eyeing for years? Olivia bought it last month. Negotiated directly with the previous owners. In the sumptuous room, faces changed. Revelations. Shame. Silence. Claire turned pale as porcelain. Her fingers trembled around her glass. Sarah, the once steadfast matriarch, sat down slowly, as if her legs could no longer bear the weight of her mistakes. The cousins, so mocking a few minutes earlier, now carefully avoided glances. None wanted to be associated with the collective cruelty of before. Even Aunt Margaret, who had so often ignored Olivia with icy politeness, now stared at her with a mixture of admiration and genuine embarrassment, twirling her family pearls between her fingers like rosaries of anxiety. And then the truth dawned on everyone. They had judged, humiliated, and degraded a woman whose strength, success, and morality far exceeded their own. Sarah Harrison, social strategist, mistress of appearances, pillar of high society, was for the first time in her life speechless. The party continued. But the atmosphere had changed radically. Where once there was rigidity and appearance, a feeling of deep reflection was born. The Harrisons' living room was no longer a bastion of frozen privilege. It was becoming a place where real connections could finally take root. Sarah was the first to break the silence. She stood up slowly. Her once aristocratic features were softened by a newfound humility. I was wrong about you, she said, her voice firmer than her hands. For years I held to judgments that were unfair and completely unfounded. Olivia nodded slowly. Her simple gesture spoke volumes more than any words. Claire approached in turn, her confidence fading, replaced by genuine unease. "This women's cooperative. I'd like to know more about it. Maybe I could help." And in the room, the conversations changed. The worldly gossip gave way to exchanges that finally made sense. Uncle Richard was talking to Olivia about sustainable business practices, while other family members, the very ones who had once shunned her, now came to ask her opinion, their eyes genuine with respect. As the evening shadows stretched gently across the Persian rugs, an imperceptible but profound change had taken place. This gathering, once dominated by appearances and status, suddenly became human, authentic. A moment of true exchange, no longer based on family names, but on the value of ideas. Later, as James and Olivia prepared to leave, several relatives came to see her, not to criticize, but to understand. Even the once distant Aunt Margaret asked for his card, mentioning a community project that could benefit from his expertise. Outside in the cool Boston evening, James helped Olivia into the car. The city lights reflected off the windshield like stars falling from the sky. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. "I think real change doesn't come from forcing others to recognize our value," she replied. "It comes when you stay true to yourself, long enough for them to finally see what has always been there." They moved away from the Harrison estate, leaving behind a family that was slowly but surely beginning the difficult, but necessary, work of self-examination. For sometimes the most powerful legacies aren't the ones we receive, but the ones we choose to create. Party popper in you? Did you feel that magical moment when James stood by Olivia's side, unwavering? Man and woman holding hands. If you enjoyed this moment of loyalty, love and respect between husband and wife, subscribe right away to our channel. Rehart here, we don't tell stories of betrayal or toxic drama. We celebrate couples who love each other, support each other, and build a strong love together, based on mutual respect. Every week, we bring you a new inspiring story. Couples who face judgment, overcome challenges, and remind us what love should always look like. Sparkles, wasn't it heartwarming to see a man who not only admires his wife's heart, but also celebrates his accomplishments? This is the kind of relationship we want to see more of. Round Pushpin, tell us in the comments, from which region of the United States or world are you watching us? Are you sunny in Florida? Snowy in Minnesota? Busy in New York or quiet in Montana? Let's create a map of our wonderful community, and we would like to add you. Loudspeaker. And if you know someone who still believes in beautiful, faithful and respectful marriages, share this video with him or her. In a sometimes cynical world, these stories are a breath of fresh air. Speech balloon. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell. Next week, a new story awaits you, that of a couple who, once again, prove that true love isn't just about sweet nothings, but is built on daily respect. Backhand index pointing right. Until then, remember, true wealth is not measured in dollars, but in a relationship where each lifts the other up. Movie camera. See you soon for a new story, a love story like we all deserve. Thumbs up if you like this story. Don't forget to like the video. Bell, subscribe to the channel to never miss our next inspiring stories. Round Pushpin and tell us in the comments, which city or region are you watching this video from? We love discovering our community all over the world.